All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session of Stronger Together, focusing on businesses helping businesses in downtown Marietta. My name is Christy Thomas, and I am the Executive Director of Marietta Main Street. And before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to share a few notes. First, this session is being recorded and will be made available for review after the meeting on our YouTube channel. You may choose to keep your video on or off during the session, but I do ask that everyone mute their microphone before and after any questions. A presentation will be shown courtesy of our speaker once we get started. Second, I do encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. You can either raise your hand and unmute yourself to ask a question, or you can type a question into the chat box. Third, this program is put forward by a committee of Marietta Main Street. As many of you know, or maybe you don't, we operate on the magic our volunteers share with us. So if you're interested in joining the Economic Vitality Committee that hosts this series, or any of our other 6 committees, please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know what your interests are. Now for today's session on storefront care and maintenance. Today we will learn how storefronts and windows can be vital to increasing foot traffic. Our speaker today will share specific points about basic maintenance, some do's and don'ts according to experts, and share some examples. Our speaker today is Laura Pytlik of Wit Whimzy on Front Street, and she'll share with us some of her own ups and downs with window displays and some examples that might provide some inspiration. A little background about our speaker. Laura moved to the area in 2001 and worked at Marietta College for 14 years. In 2014, she created Marietta Marketplace as a pop-up venue to showcase local and regional artists and makers. Laura so enjoyed meeting and supporting artisans and creators that in 2016, she left her job of 14 years to follow her dream, take a huge risk, and open a brick and mortar shop downtown on Front Street. Wit Whimzy now features over 100 artisans and small makers and offers a curated space filled with art, home decor, jewelry, paper goods, apparel, and unique gift items. When Laura isn't tending her shop, she enjoys writing for Clutch MOV and other local publications, and of course working with local organizations to overall enhance our community. So grateful that Laura could carve out a little bit of time to be with us today. So Laura, thank you so much, and I will pass it over to you.
Well, thank you. That was such a nice introduction. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. And for those of you who are tuning in live and watching later, well, Christy gave you the background about me and where I began. And so I just celebrated my 5th year, my 5th anniversary on Front Street. So we're going to be talking about windows and store displays and the facade of your store or your business. And I know I'm talking to some people who have been doing this for years. And of course, your expertise is very much appreciated. And I know a lot of people, they just nail it with their windows. But then again, you might be somebody new to this. Maybe this is your first holiday season on Front Street. And so we welcome you and hopefully offer some tips, maybe some inspiration. Maybe you're kind of like tired of thinking of windows all the time. So maybe we can just kind of help out a little bit in that department. So the great thing about having a business in downtown Marietta is the historic buildings. The downfall might be that you're in a historic building, and older buildings have challenges, and a lot of us are renting. So a lot of us do not own our building, and we do not have the authority or even the resources to make some major improvements. So a lot of us are just kind of making do with what we have and making the best of it. And we appreciate, you know, these charming, unique spaces, but sometimes it can be a challenge. Moisture in the windows. If you're new and this is your first winter coming up and your business has single pane windows, you might come in some morning after a cold night and see moisture inside the windows. My particular shop, it gets so bad, I will have water literally running down the inside of my windows some mornings. Quick tip for that, I've learned that if you turn your thermostat way down at night, mine goes down to 55, it kind of eases up the problem a little bit because you don't have so much warmth inside the building. Some of our windows have too much light or too little light. You might be working with old awnings or overhangs that are just, they're there, they're not going to go away. So you're trying to work with that. You may have no awnings or blinds or even a shade tree out front. And like my current space, the late afternoon, especially in the winter, the sunlight is harsh in my window and it damages a lot of my products. So I have to be really careful about that. Some of us have awkward spaces. You might have some weird angles. Maybe your window is flush with the floor of your retail space. So maybe there's no like boundary between your display, front display window and your retail space. Or maybe you have this huge front window and you're not really sure what to do with such a large space. And then we have the exterior of an older building, and that comes with its own problems. Sometimes maybe cement stairs might show some crumbling. Maybe railings are, losing their paint. Maybe there's some rust. Maybe the wooden trim around the window has been showing some rot or damage there. Maybe the trim needs painting. So sometimes you might have an exterior that isn't really up to what it could be in potential. But again, you might be renting and you're just kind of trying to make do with what you have. So first impressions do matter. It takes a very short time for somebody to determine whether or not they want to go into a business, whether they see something there that is intriguing to them, if it's something they might be interested in. So you want to make sure the exterior of your business, not just the windows, is really putting on a good first impression. And most of us, if you're like me, you enter your business through the back door. You park in the back, you enter in the back, and you might open the front door long enough to sweep off the stoop and get the mail. But when's the last time you've walked a little bit away from your building and then approached it as a visitor would? So I would suggest just doing that, approach it from both directions as if you were a first-time visitor, and just make note of what you see. Are you seeing a clean exterior? Is everything well maintained? The windows themselves that we'll talk about. If you are seeing, are there cigarette butts in the stoop? Because let's be honest, some of our front doors and under our awnings become kind of loitering areas sometimes at night. And so I've come in the morning and there might be food wrappers and cigarette butts and, a drink cup left there. So you want to just do some basic maintenance and some basic housekeeping and make sure it's a nice, fresh entry to your building. And then looking at the windows, what do people see? Do you have a lot of flyers? Do you have a lot of posters? And I know we're in a small town and we all try to support our community, and we have lots of organizations that we help promote, and we help promote different events. So there is usually a poster or a flyer that we're displaying, but how many do you have? You don't want your front window to look like a bulletin board, and having a lot of papers that are taped up and just kind of filling the space might be distracting away from your store image or your products. And I know personally, I try to put one poster at a time. So I've got my posters lined up in the shop, and the next event is in the front. So when one event is done, then I put up the next poster. Some people choose a spot inside their shop for all the flyers and posters, and it might be a doorway or some other spot in their shop so they can keep their windows clean. And then do you have your hours posted? If your hours are posted, are they accurate? I know that especially during COVID, a lot of us were changing hours, and we've had shortened hours and then extended hours. So make sure if you have your hours posted that those are actually when you're there and when you're open. Because if somebody comes up to the front and it says, you open at 10, and it's 10:30 and you're still closed, you might want to change your hours to make them more updated. And then your products, I mean, this is kind of, you have to tailor it to your business, but you don't want too many products where it looks like you're trying to display everything that you sell. You don't need to put all your products out on the window to let people know what you sell. You can have a taste of the products that people can expect to see inside, or you might have a style that people can kind of get a taste of. Then they would know, oh, I want to see more of this. I'm going to go inside. You might have maybe just a few products at a time, depending on the time of the year, but they kind of represent the type of store or the type of business you are. And then you want to be careful not to have so many products that people don't know what to look at first, or they're small, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So my personal challenges, and I'm speaking from experience, and some of you might be able to relate, again, the harsh sun. So I have to be really careful. I cannot put paper products or t-shirts and clothing. I cannot leave them out for more than a week or two at a time, or they will be damaged. The t-shirts fade and some of the paper products fade. So if you're going to put out products that are going to be damaged, it's costing you money. My solution is either those products are just for display then, and they don't get put out on the floor to sell, or I have to make sure I take them out of the window after a week or two. And I cannot put, I don't put candles in my window. Anything that heat could affect it, they cannot go in my window because it's just way too harsh in the late afternoon. And as I mentioned, the moisture, so I cannot hang things, I cannot attach things to the inside of my windows unless I use like something permanent up on the wood trim. Because if I come in the next morning, if it was taped or, the command hooks even, they just slide right off. And then my spaces are kind of awkward. They're not terrible though. They're angled and I've learned to work with them and I kind of like them. So that's not really too much of a problem for me. But I know some of the buildings downtown have a bit awkward spaces. So you might be dealing with that. How often should the windows be changed? A minimum of once a month. You want to change your window at least once a month, and of course, preferably more often. I know the clothing boutiques in town do an amazing job, and I think most of them are changed at least once a week. It looks like it to me, and I think that's great. You will see mannequins with new outfits on and new accessories. And when people go by, it lets that visitor know that you're going to have new inventory. They see a different outfit, a different style on the mannequin. So they know, oh, I was there last week, but let's go next week because it looks like they've got new inventory. So you're going to draw in customers when they see your display changing, because it gives them an idea that, oh, well, if the window's changing, there's probably new stuff in the store. And that is the minimum. I know a lot of people do it more often, and that's even better. Some people worry a little bit about our events, and we'll talk about that. I think my next slide. Oh, no, it's keep the lights on. It's really important to keep your storefront bright. And I know electric bills can get high, but if you have some LED or some dimmer lights that don't use a lot of energy, if you can keep them on all the time, that is an excellent idea. At night, especially when the sun starts going down early, if somebody's coming downtown, maybe they're going to dinner and they don't usually get a chance to come during your hours, your brightly lit window will catch their eye. And they might see something that interests them and they'll make a point to come back when you're open. And also when the lights are on, and I know we are great during the holidays. I think most of the shops stay lit all the time during the holidays, but to even do it year round, it gives our downtown a vibrancy, and it gives it the impression that we are open for business. And even if somebody is downtown after hours, when they see all these brightly lit shops, it really lets them know that we are vibrant and dynamic, and it makes them want to come back during the day and be a customer. So as I was saying, you want to change your window at least once a month and hopefully more often, but you can make some small changes if you're like me and time is always a problem. Sometimes I really stress because I know I haven't changed my window for a while and I need to make a change. That first example in the slide, as you see, there's just fall leaves going around this window. And that window itself, so those leaves could stay there for 2 months. But maybe in October, maybe they've added some Halloween elements to that window. And maybe there are jack-o'-lanterns and maybe a couple ghosts or something Halloween related. And then once Halloween is over, they can remove those elements and maybe make it more of a harvest or a Thanksgiving theme window and just add some regular pumpkins or corn, Indian corn or gourds. So that window, the main part that probably took the most time and effort, that could actually stay there for a while and just change the other elements. Now the middle example is my own letterboard. And when I am really stressed and short of time, if all else fails, I change my letterboard. My letterboard is kind of my signature, and they're usually humorous, sometimes pun-y, sometimes snarky. And so when I need some inspiration, I go online, I look for a good letterboard, I change that and just change a couple elements that are around it. And then I'm good at least for another week. So you might have something in your window. I know a couple businesses have bikes and the bikes can be changed out, or maybe you have a giant rocking chair or some other element that element stays, but you can change it a little bit so that your window looks just different enough to be different, you know, and fresh. And then this third example, this is the cook shop right down the street from me on the same block. And Ken and Dagmar do an amazing job with their windows. If you've walked by the cook shop any time of the year, but especially during the holidays, they really get creative and whimsical with their windows. So when you look at this window, you see the deer, you see the winter scene. You don't see many products. You can see, I think it's a Dutch oven down in the center. Excuse me. And you can see a couple smaller products. But that window itself is not all about the products. It's setting a mood. It's showing some whimsy and some creativity. And then, of course, you can see beyond their window into the shop. So you know it's a cook shop, and you know they've got cool stuff for your kitchen, and it makes you want to go inside. Excuse me. So as we were talking about awkward spaces, you might need to make your space multitask. And your display window, maybe you don't have the luxury of just dedicating all this space just for displays. So you can maximize your space a little bit if you find some elements that can do double duty. Now, for instance, this example here, the display looks attractive on the store side for retail, and then it's also attractive on the street side for the display. I do something similar at Christmas time. I put the big tree in my window display. And so the store side of it, I have ornaments for sale. And so people can shop off of it. But then on the street side of it, it's decorated to fit into the display window. So that tree does double duty. I have black shutters that are hanging from the ceiling behind my display windows now. So those shutters, they create a backdrop for my window displays, and I can hang things on them, and I can use them for other things. Or they can also be a backdrop for my retail space. And so they're hanging there, and I've got items that are displayed in front of them on the retail side. So they're doing double duty. And so you can find some ways to do double duty with whatever you're using, whether you're using tables or trunks, or a lot of people use old doors. And so you can use both sides of those for both your retail and your display space. So you want to, again, we're just going to go over these points. Try to avoid having too many products, too many small products. If you think about somebody sitting in their car, maybe they're at a crosswalk or a stoplight and they're just looking around. If they see your window, you want them to be able to at least tell from a distance what type of business you have and what type of shop you have. They don't have to be able to see, you know, up close individual products, but at least get a sense of what you're selling. You want to get rid of any visible cords and wires and hardware. If you've got things propped up, if you've got things hanging, try to keep that invisible so that people are just seeing, you know, the products and the displays and the elements you want them to see. And of course, again, the dust and the dead flies. I know we hear it a lot, but it is important. And if your building's like mine, I can, especially during warm weather, I can vacuum those windows out every day. And the next morning I come in and there will be dead bugs because the lights have been on all night, or spider webs outside. They get up on the corners of the windows, around the mailbox. So it's kind of, you know, an endless cycle of cleaning, but it is important to remember. And you don't want to leave a display up for more than one season. So make sure when Halloween's over, you don't have jack-o'-lanterns, or when St. Patrick's Day's over, get rid of the leprechauns or whatever you are decorating with. You can kind of be a little more fluid with Christmas decorations, I think, because we still have New Year's. A lot of times the holiday season itself extends through New Year's. And then we have in Marietta, of course, the Ice Festival in January. So you can do something as simple as take the Christmas tree and the Christmas decor out of your display, but keep it wintry, and then maybe add some more ice and snowflake elements to your display and kind of keep that winter display going, but you've changed it up now for the January events. And then, first of all, this is your window. It's your business and it's your personality you're projecting. So just as your own business and you're selling products and you're offering services that reflect you, let your window reflect you and your business, and have a little bit of fun with it. It's just like decorating your own home. Somebody else cannot tell you what style. Did we lose me? Sorry. Okay. Can you plug this in? And just as somebody can't tell you how to decorate your own home, you know, what's right or wrong for you, it's the same thing with your windows. So you do have some guidelines that you want to follow, but you don't have to have a real stringent, it has to be this way or that way, A, B, or C. Let your personality show through and have some fun with it. And don't be afraid to get creative with it. There are traditional ways to do windows, and then there are some really crazy fun ways. If you've ever seen an Anthropologie store window, you will see some really outrageous, creative, artsy windows. And sometimes you won't even see a product in their window. But those windows are intriguing and interesting, and they make you want to go in and see what kind of cool business has this window. And that is the end of my presentation. I thank you for listening this far. I hope that I've at least had a little bit of experience to share and maybe some inspiration, especially if you're heading into your first season with windows. You know, I wish you the best of luck, and I know that you're going to kill it.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot. I love that presentation. Do we have any questions from folks who are on session right now live? I know I have 3 questions, if that's okay, Laura. My first question for you is about how long, on a monthly basis, but how many hours would you say that you spend planning your windows or designing your windows?
I really do not spend a lot of time on mine. I just don't have the time to spend. And I bet I don't spend more than 2 hours a month. I probably should spend a little more.
I think that's encouraging because I know, if it was my first time doing a window, I might feel overwhelmed because you see all the adorable things like you mentioned, anthropology, and good golly, how much time does that take? Um, and so knowing that you can have an effective storefront and care for your windows by like investing 2 hours a month, for example, that seems doable. And that is
Right. I think Christmas windows are probably the most time consuming because for most of us, we have a lot more elements going into the Christmas windows. Um, but then again, I've seen some really dramatic windows that have simple elements, but they really make a big impact. I'm thinking of Sugar Maple last year. And so you can make a big impact with a very simple window.
So the next question is, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any tried and true ways of finding inspiration or places that you go for ideas or supplies to help bring some of your visions to life?
Well, would you all be shocked if I said Pinterest? I can spend hours on Pinterest just browsing windows, and I tried to look at similar retailers to my shop, and I follow a lot on Instagram who are similar to the types of products I sell, but they're scattered across the country. And so a lot of times I don't want to copy their windows, but I might get some inspiration, just a certain element. I love vintage. And so I like to add some vintage items to my windows, and I kind of have a stockpile of things. So I'll look at my pile of vintage items and I'm like, how can I use this one this month?
I guess my last question is, say you don't have a ledge in front of your window where you can actually display things. Like I know some of our storefronts downtown, it's just a flat square window and it's just right up against the floor. Or maybe the shape of the window doesn't lend itself to too much inspiration, like they don't have the angle components. So if folks can't just stick things to the window, you have ideas of things that people can do to add height, or like specific tricks that they might use to excite folks outside of just putting, taping things up on the inside of the window.
I would definitely create some type of freestanding backdrop. And it could be something as cheap as going out and picking up a few free palettes and painting them or leaving them natural if that's your style. Or I've seen old doors used where they'll stand the old doors and add a base to them so they're freestanding. And that way you've got a backdrop to your window. Instead of having to tape things to the actual window itself, you can use that as your backdrop. I create height in mine with crates, old suitcases, things that can be stacked. So I'll have different heights of crates or old suitcases. I know some people will use wooden boxes or something under, and they'll drape it with fabric, and they can even change out the fabric, for the seasons, and that can create some height, but still give it a consistent look.
That's great advice. I really appreciate that. Well, if nobody else has any more questions, I know that folks can find Laura on Front Street. She's active on social media and she's got an email address, and I'm sure you'd be more than happy to answer any questions folks might have if they happen to watch this on YouTube or think of anything that they want to learn more about from you after the fact. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope that you learned something and have something fun you can take away. And we look forward. You can find all of the videos from Stronger Together previously on our website. And I hope that this will be soon on our YouTube channel for folks to tune in. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you in our next session.
Great. Thank you for having me.